Good morning, guys. Welcome to the session where we talk about the next 1 billion. But before I get into that, by a show of hands, how many people own crypto in the audience? Don't be shy. It's okay. We're not going to tell anyone. And how many of you, the people that own crypto are between the ages of 18 and 40? Reem, keep your hand down. All right. And how many are above 45 that own crypto? Well done. Well done. So I'll give you some funny, interesting stats to start with. Studies show that we have currently about 94% of crypto owners are between the ages of 18 and 40. So that would make them Gen Zs and millennials, I guess. And boomers, like me, only own the remaining percentage. Amongst that, the millennials own about 50% of crypto. Everyone has made an investment in crypto. So that is the current trend. So what we're going to talk about is how do the next 1 billion who are coming into the space, how do they have accessibility to crypto? We were talking backstage about how is crypto adoption going to be over the course of the next couple of months or years, and how can we make it more inclusive for more people to come into the space? So before I start, I would like our guests to quickly introduce themselves, if they don't mind. Eowyn, I'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. So glad to be here. I'm the CEO of Trust Wallet, but so glad to be here at Blockchain Week by Binance because I used to also work at Binance and kind of grow the user base from 10 million to 100 million on the marketing team. And so this is home, and glad to be here and share the journey about how to explore the next billion, not only just from the centralized side, and also what I'm working on is directly onboard users to on-chain on the decentralized side.
Hi to everyone, this is Bora Erdamar. I'm an assistant professor in Bahçeşehir University in Economics Department, and I'm also the founding director of BlockchainIST Center, which is the first university research center in blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies. Well, I'm also very happy and proud as a local person that we are hosting this event in Istanbul. I'm sure that we all will show the Turkish hospitality to all our friends here, and hopefully next year we will have even a bigger event here. I'm very keen on growing the industry altogether. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Yuelin Lee. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Onfido. We are an identity verification KYC AML company. We've been working with a lot of players in this ecosystem and side for a number of years now. Really nice to see you all. I am firmly in the group that Vishal started off with, looking forward to discussing how we extend beyond that.
Fantastic. Eowyn, so we'll start with you. Let's define the next 1 billion. Who are these people? What challenges would they face in terms of accessibility and adoption going forward?
I consider the next 1 billion people, if we were to do user segmentation, I think I will segment it less than age, but more by risk appetite.
Okay.
I think for any innovation, new industry, technological trend coming to be, there are always an early adopter stage. And the early adopters are usually defined by the motivation and inspiration that they got from new things, which are ideologically driven, and also about risk appetite, whether people are willing to try new things, making the effort or potentially put some of their time, their assets at loss in order to truly experiment and understand it, and willing to jump over the hoops. And that's what we see for the past decade, since the inception of Bitcoin, is that the whole industry and the whole user base are exploring what is the potential of the technology from the ideological perspective and from the early adopting risk appetite aspect. So if we were to talk about the next 1 billion, it's going to be 1/7 of the world's population.
Correct.
Then the risk appetite is going to be very different from what I would say is the potential 0.1% to 1% of the population. But then the key question is, if we were to consider the next 1 billion is defined by risk appetite, what are they afraid of? And there are a couple of most common things that people are afraid of. People are afraid of things that they are unknown. I don't know how to do this. The onboarding experience sucks. It's not that familiar with. we take the blame. we're the onboarding block for user experiences on how to make things easier for them. But on the other side, there's also the risk and fear towards security. Like, do I lose money? I saw hacks every day. I saw scammers every day, which I think is not unique to crypto industry. Scams is an ancient vacation that happens throughout the historical times, regardless of the technological things. So it's solving a human problem, solving an organization problem, saying how we organize, how we create the culture and the environment in the industry that makes it inviting, that makes it a peace of mind for people, so that we cater to the next 1 billion's risk appetite. So just to quickly summarize, I think we need to lower the risk, the perception, increasing the trust by giving a better user experiences, which is what we need to work on from the technological, from the product aspects, but also we need to collectively work out how to increase the trust and lower the risk from the organization perspective of the industry and security perspective altogether.
Bora, going back to a few things that Eowyn just mentioned, trust, security, knowledge, and education obviously play a key role in this. What are your opinions on the next 1 billion as well?
Well, let's start with trust. I think we have kind of everything. I mean, we took lots of distance since 2008. I mean, 5 years ago, nobody was knowing about Bitcoin and blockchain and the other cryptocurrencies. And in today's world, actually, many people are talking about it, but we have still some fundamental issues. Last year, we had some traumatic experiences in crypto, and it created also trust issues. But not only that, people are still a bit putting distance with crypto because there are some barriers according to them. So, but this is interesting. I mean, when we check the essence of crypto, it is transforming the money markets, right? In which way, from an economic point of view, I mean, money markets are by definition monopolistic markets, right? Only the central banks are having the right to produce money. Historically, this was the case. But with technology, now we are transforming it with an idea. Money markets need not to be monopolistic. It can be a competitive market, which means not only on the demand side, but also on the supply side, everyone can contribute. Well, our moderator kindly asked you about how many of you are exposed to crypto, but I will not ask this, but please think the answer. How do you think the percentage of you in crypto ecosystem who are producing cryptocurrencies, who are establishing a node in blockchains, not only in Bitcoin, but in all blockchains? So that is what I'm meaning by being in the supply side of it. Well, this is important because we have some technical barriers there, and we have some financial technology information barriers there. People are, first of all, finding it a bit too difficult or too technical. And which means they are mainly becoming on the demand side of it. So people are investing a lot, people are trading a lot, people are establishing new startups, new projects, which are very good. But we have a new barrier there, which we should actually overcome altogether. First of all, we need to make it easier to understand. We need to make it easier to enter the ecosystem, also in the production side of the money supply markets. So once we can establish that, let's check what we have already. Well, we have the corporate interests, we have the large capital interests, hopefully ETFs are forthcoming. So we have the interest, we have the money, we have the human capital, except the technical side. So developers are all the time well needed, and they are actually very well paid in the industry. I think we need to enlarge this ecosystem also with the support of more developers, more experts. And once we can establish that, we can actually produce easier to use products. We have many nice wallet products out there. Web3 wallets are becoming more popular, easier to use with better user interfaces. And not only that, the other part, which we will solve kind of all these problems, are focusing on the bridge projects. I'm not referring to the blockchain bridges here. I'm mentioning the bridge projects between the crypto ecosystem and the conventional financial system. There is still a gap there, but one of the milestones were the collaboration between Aave protocol, for example, from DeFi, and the Société Générale from France, one of the most bureaucratic banks. If we have managed this, if we could manage a collaboration between a very conventional financial institution and one of the very pioneer innovative crypto protocols, I think, this is signaling us the way. For increasing those type of collaborations, I think it will be one of the major contributions for the adoption of next 1 billion. Thank you.
So coming from a perspective, because we work with a lot of people within the crypto ecosystem and also out with the ecosystem, I think if you look at the next billion, right, there is one element which is to do with the group of people where a certain, like, whether it's age group, risk appetite group, or so on, are very active, and a whole group who are not. If you look at the trends for people who actually use mobile banking or who use online banking, the trend lines are similar, but are much higher. So there is definitely a component where there are people who are comfortable. There are people who will not be comfortable to do a lot of these things on their phones, and those are not going to be the next people in the next billion anyway. But there are a big group of people who are comfortable with doing a lot of financial interactions online, but have not adopted crypto. And so what is the gap, right, for that group of people? And a lot of it comes from the stuff that's been said. It's like, do they really understand it? Because when you lead with a lot of things in this industry, it's very technology fast. If you look at a lot of the consumer products that people are adopting, it's very user experience fast, it's very value first, and it's very, very simple. If you set up a sort of investing account or like an e-money account or a remittance thing, there isn't this huge complexity of like, how do I sort my wallet? What should I be doing here? Am I doing the right thing? Will I render code? And I think that simplicity and why people want to use it, there's been a huge development in this space, and that is probably driving the growth in the numbers. But there's a lot more that still can be done. The second group is like, okay, so there's this group of people. There's also a huge number of people who live in emerging markets, and who are in countries where they would love to adopt more crypto or can totally see the value from it today. But in those countries, especially some of the biggest ones in the world, there's an unclear regulatory framework, and so it's not built into the ecosystem. And so you can't just have everyone in that country adopting tomorrow, or they will need to work out ways to do it, which isn't already plugged into what they have. I think that's the second big opportunity, is working with regulators. We've been talking about regulation a lot, and I'm sure we will, but being part of the standard ecosystem and being part of a regulatory framework that makes sense is a very big step in actually building trust and security. Not all financial regulation is perfect, of course, but a lot of it is thought out in a way that consumers feel safe about, and that feeling of safety, I think, is the difference between people who are willing to bank online and the people who are willing to hold crypto online.
I'm going to go a little off script here because you touched on a few things. You spoke about trust. Eowyn spoke about how the risk appetite has to be there for people to kind of adopt crypto. And he spoke about the bridge. Now, there are multiple things that would factor into all these different elements, right? So you have corporates, you have regulators, you have governments, you have policymakers, and you have the adopters themselves. So where do you see that bridge coming from? How do we build that bridge? How do we get them all together so the adoption continues at the pace that it's going right now? So where do you see that flow coming through? Is it from the technology side? Is it from the institutional side? Is it from the people on the ground side? How do we attract people to come and adopt this industry a lot quicker? Let's put it that way.
I think there's two key components. So one is actually, there's been some reputational stuff. Reputationally has been a tough 12 months. And I would say the first is to make sure you have a clean house, right? If you want to be regulated and someone's going to come and audit you, you need to have the confidence of being like, actually, our systems are robust. We have KYC'd all our people, or whatever it is that you need to do, and that you don't have anything to hide. That's one element. And then you can be very open and engage with regulators, auditors, government, or whoever it is that you need to. And I think then the second part is also creating these forums for people to have these conversations that doesn't necessarily start from the technology, but starts from the usability. Because a lot of countries and governments, they appreciate they have a financial inclusion problem, for example. That's not actually something to be proud of, right? That's something that we want to work away from as time goes on. But that is a much easier point to have that conversation over than, hello, here's my technology protocol, because that will actually probably lose engagement of a big part of those people. So really thinking when you discuss with the government or the regulator or the institution, what it is that they actually care about, security, protections, and so on, and also what is it that they want to be driving forward in their country ecosystem for the greater good, which can actually be powered by crypto rather than crypto as the end. Because as we were discussing before, right, like adoption is really high in the Middle East, not just because it's within the regulatory framework, which is a great start, but also because you can use it. And it actually drives value for normal consumers and normal people. I think that's what will get the institutions and the regulators and the governments excited about using it.
Yeah, please, yeah.
On that one. I think if we want to better have that bridge, that's like taking initial steps back into the cycle of crossing the chasm. We need brave leadership from different sectors be willing to change the mindset that don't look at the risk and willing to look at the opportunities. I think the biggest challenges for any new things to get adopted is because when we try to cross the chasm, try to embrace collaborations, the other side is afraid. Is afraid of losing something they're familiar with, is afraid of losing something that they can be a control of, which shield them from looking at what about the upsides you can bring. What is the upside this can bring to my business if it's a traditional company? What is the upsides it brings for my society? And everyone is playing in the playing field. That's not combating with the newcomers. But it would be much better if the existing players can figure out how can I have a win-win situation to have this new enabler to help me serve my users better, to serve my society better, to serve my people better. That requires courage. That requires leadership. That's not common. But that's what's going to trailblaze and make the future. And sometimes in different societies, those people are few. And I think we're at this time, if we want to make the bridge requires two sides for those type of people with an open mindset, willing to experiment, willing to try, and come up with some successful case studies and examples, be resilient, and show to the world about what the possibility can be and is. And this will mean that not just a change of mindset, it also requires a lot of maneuvers and tactics, because it requires, no matter who takes the leadership on their own sides, needs to figure out the resistance in their own environment. That's why I said this is not easy, but that's why we're here. All of you guys are sitting here. I'm sure that you represent a different either industry, a different company, or a different sector, public, private, social. And I would encourage you guys to think about together is what could be the opportunity here? How can we take the leadership? And how can we practically and smartly to maneuver the environment with the resistance to reach a successful case examples so that we bring along our environment to the next stage?
You're not taking pot shots at particular people, are you? With all that, it has to come from both sides, basically. You need two hands to clap, and it has to be open and willing to understand.
Exactly. So I would say we, Trust Wallet, we work with a decentralized community. We work with developer communities. We're the very hardcore group of people. And sometimes my struggle with our own people is, can we also be more open-minded? Can we not be so pigeonholed in only one way to do blockchain? One way to go decentralization? Can we find common ground? Where is our vision? What is the value we want to bring? And how can we be flexible as long as we have the vision and the goal in mind and be willing to educate, be willing to collaborate, be willing to be open about no matter who the traditional business is, the regulations, the social environment, to find solutions together rather than resisting. Because resistance won't bring to the other side of the success that we want to bring. So that's why I said that even for the so-called the innovation crowd in the industry, we cannot be so close-minded with one way of innovation, with one way of ideology. So I'm just doing my own confession and soul searching, representing the decentralized side of the industry. But it requires the other side be willing to listen to us,
Correct.
willing to be open-minded for us, willing to try things with us. So that's why bridge is never one side. It requires both sides to do hard work.
Bora, going back to you, so we have the Binance Academy within our platform, which saw 62% growth over the course of the last year, catering to about 39 million crypto enthusiasts, right? Yuelin mentioned about financial inclusion at the start. There was a stage in a previous life where fintech was just coming up in itself and took a lot of education from both sides, from the regulatory side and the users, especially when you're talking about financial inclusion, the blue-collar workers, how do we get them included into the financial fabric of society? Right? Where does financial literacy and education play a role in that attraction to the next billion? How important is it, and what steps do you think, what are we missing? If we're doing the right thing, great. What are we missing as well? And you touched upon it sometime back on the bridge side, but anything else that you want to add to that?
So, in the lectures of blockchain and crypto, we have a tendency to start for promoting the technology, promoting the freedom side of it, promoting the new innovative side for freedom of entrepreneurship, etc. But I think we forget the history a bit. 2008 was really a milestone, I think, not only for the industries, but also for humanity. Because we are falling in a trap again and again. And we can actually name two main reasons for that. The first one is too much concentrated power always creates its own risks. Financial risk is something else. Too much power concentration is something else. The second one is lack of transparency. Just place these examples into 2008, place these examples to Madoff Capital, Ponzi case, etc. So blockchain's vision started with that. So to increase the financial literacy, first we need to focus and remember what happened and what are the main fundamental risks we are exposed to again and again in the existing systems. Focusing on those will help the improvement for the conventional financial system, but also will create extra motivation for focusing on the technical, not only technical or not only focusing on the very exciting, innovative features of blockchain technology, but it will create, first of all, the vision, the motivation for learning this stuff. Because this is a collective problem. Once we can build a better financial system, when we can build altogether a better welfare system, then the first focus will be on not only cake sharing problem, but we need to build a new cake for everyone. Then dividing the cake pieces will be the second one. So what is the education side of it and where it places there? Where we have a huge interest, but that huge interest might bring also short-sightedness, meaning that, of course, many people are very exciting for kind of doing something very quick, but also once it is a business side of it, they also look for success for very quickly. Well, this is a long-term journey, and we have years upon us. So we need to plan accordingly. We need to invest in human capital accordingly. Investing in projects is very nice. Investing in human capital is the number one thing for the sustainability of the ecosystem. So for that, first of all, not only the university programs are enough, because they are essential, but we need to collaborate more because this ecosystem is very dynamic. So what we teach in universities this week will be kind of outdated already, kind of next semester, 6 months later. So for that, of course, the support of the ecosystem, support of the private industry, support of Binance Academy and other academies by all the service providers in the industry is one of the number one motivation sources. But also we need the human capital to be more focused on long-term thinking. Building knowledge requires patience. But that is the most valuable investment to my knowledge. If you be patient enough, if you learn stuff, it really survives you. And then you will be part of a larger ecosystem. And in that ecosystem, the other most necessary part is the collaborative spirit. Sometimes we focus on too much competition. Then it brings us to another trap that we are focusing on sharing the cake pieces too much competitively. We forget that compared to the conventional financial system, we have still things to do. And we shouldn't forget the number 2 reason, right? Lack of transparency. One of the biggest risks happened in the crypto industry because of the lack of transparency in the proof of reserves, for example. Then one focused on the proof of reserves of the crypto project, exchanges, etc. But first of all, you need to know where to look. And education side, training side, so these are there actually to educate people where to look, where to check, and then with the transparency of the technology, with the proof of reserves and related stuff, then actually people notice the merits in the blockchain and crypto ecosystem relative to the other financial systems.
Quickly moving, we had talked about who the next billion are. We spoke about what's required to get them to that place, financial literacy. We talked about inclusion. We talked about education. Let's talk about making it, simplifying that user experience, right? The onboarding experience now. Again, we have multiple apps, multiple features. Binance just launched whatever, copy trading, and the analytics, and Richard just spoke about the new Web3 wall that they launched. How would you create that journey? Or how do you simplify that journey a lot better with technology from your perspective?
Great question, and something I think about all the time. So we create, for example, we create SDKs, and what we're thinking about a lot is even in this relatively narrow part of the technology that we spend a lot of time thinking about, how do you make that journey as simple as possible? How do you make it as accessible as possible so that you can actually work for everyone? How can you leverage the new AI is a really thing to provide and really leverage that technology to provide bespoke, real-time, positive interactions with the user? And then it's easy to say, of course, and then just do that across the whole journey. From our obviously, that is not as trivial as it sounds. It's something that I know we have to think a lot about, even just within the onboarding journey or the sort of account recovery journey, which is where we pay. And there's so much thought that goes into all of these different components. And this is the beauty of user experience, right? You know when it's bad, you know when it's good, and there isn't necessarily a formula. But I do think we're at this stage where leveraging the great technology and making it accessible, baseline, but also how do you promote trust, right? Have your terms and conditions up front, have your privacy policy up front, be really clear about what you're doing with certain things. Build stuff that is very simple to use. Make sure you test it on a lot of different users of different things. And this is why not technology first, but balance with technology. For example, in our world, there is a big thing about fraud and deepfakes and injection attacks. So you could create a million different barriers and therefore prevent all sorts, but you also won't let anyone through. And so when you're building some of this stuff, really thinking through and having what I always say, is having these integrated teams, right, where your user researcher and your designers and your front-end engineers and your scientists are all making stuff together so that it isn't that one side has much a stronger view and therefore your technology does what it needs to do but locks everyone out, or lets everyone through but actually doesn't prevent all your problems. This is, I think, something that I would love to see this industry bring to all the things that they're building as well, whether using third parties, whether you're building it yourself, so that everything feels beautiful and seamless and is led from what the user needs to get out of this. Trust, usability, whatever first, rather than, technology first, as tempting as that always is.
Okay, I think we're running short on the last 5 minutes, so I'm going to be really quick. She spoke about deepfakes. Let's touch on AI. Let's touch on what's the future hold for us. What should we be looking forward to over the next, normally I would have said 5 years, but the space changes so fast, I'm going to say, let's say the next 6 months to a year. What's the new thing that you see coming our way?
Do we have to talk about AI?
She said it, deepfakes.
Sorry.
She bought it.
So next 6 to 1 year, what I'm excited about is that we're doing our fair share of the work in trying to revamping and improving the onboarding experiences. So to your problem, that's what we're bread and butter and focusing on.
Right.
And to solve the user onboarding experiences and the UX, we need to look at what the reality is. How does a user right now go from the traditional fiat world to try something of their first step? They will try to figure out very hard how to move their fiat money into crypto format first. And usually the majority of the situation happens with a centralized exchange. Correct. So they will need to go to a centralized exchange, pass very onerous KYCs, which will probably delay for 10 days, 7 to 10 days. And then finally, they'll get an email saying that now you passed the verification, and then you can get your first crypto. And they go with the first crypto, try to buy it, they get stuck with a chargeback. Oh, your bank account failed because your bank doesn't support crypto transaction. Boom, they need to figure out, okay, if my bank doesn't work, I need to go somewhere else. Right? So that's the whole blockages to even by moving something into the platform first. And then they're on the centralized exchange. Now they have their fiat money in there. Then they usually buy their first crypto in whatever format. But they don't see that, they don't touch it, it's holding on the back end of the centralized exchanges. Usually people stop there and think that now I have my crypto. But those are crypto holding in the centralized exchange. They are not the crypto that you own on-chain, you see, that you control, no one else does. And that is where I think the real journey starts, for people to have the first taste of owning their crypto real time on the blockchain, that they can see at all times, only they can have access to, and no one else does. And usually 90% of the people will stop on the centralized exchange side, but for the 10% of the brave souls, they will try to figure out what is the network, where do I then withdraw my crypto into something on-chain wallet. Then they need to do the research on what is my on-chain wallet that I need to use, and go through remembering the C phrase, keep a backup it, and then do the withdrawal flow. I'm not even counting how many steps there, but I think it will probably be like 10 to 20 steps, right? So that is the problem for onboarding experiences. Yeah. And that's why we do the collaboration with Binance on doing the Web3 wallet. So we have the backend, we have the tech to support almost close to 100 chains now. We want to help the people who are already on a centralized platform, the 90% who doesn't really have the taste of true crypto, true blockchain experiences, to be able to make the move. So we do that product, we do the tech with Binance to help the Binance users to experiment that, oh, I can very easily create an on-chain wallet, and then I can move my funds over, and I can have an easy first step experiences and truly see what the blockchain has to offer. And usually I get answer, do you afraid that this is a competition? Right? Like, what is the strategy behind the scene? I think this is where the long-term vision is. If Trust Wallet, our mission is we want to increase the on-chain adoption for the users. We can do that through making our product experiences great, which we are doing. We change our brand, we change our UI, we change our UX, everything. We're working with the fiat on-ramp channels, try to improving the whole experiences. But we recognize that's not the majority of the people, how they get into crypto. So we need to be open-minded and say that how can we make the 90% of the users still on centralized exchange to also enjoy the benefit of truly be on-chain? Because if that happens, then conversion rate increases. That's also a huge adoption to truly for the assets to be on crypto, for the users to have ownership, for the users to have transparency without worrying about custody risk, centralized platform risk. And that's also the open-mindedness that Binance has. They are not afraid of users moving their funds off Binance to on-chain and blockchain because visions is aligned. We want to increase the adoption for people to truly taste the power of ownership on-chain. And that's the partnership that we do together. So that's an example. And I hope that for the next 6 months to 1 year, we will try to see how we can do better with all the end-to-end user journey for our product. We also try to see how we do similar experiments with other platforms that we can increase more touch points, more open entry point to increase the adoption of blockchain.
Thank you. I think we're running out of time. So on behalf of everyone, thank you to our panelists. A big round of applause for our panelists, ladies and gentlemen.